All righty, boys and girls, we're back. Truman Lake Fishing Intel Special Edition with my buddy David McCormick of the Fish30 YouTube channel. He's one of our bass contributors, longtime tournament angler for over 25 years, ton of success. David, how's it going, man?
Well, we had a really strong cold front ruin our fishing.
Yeah.
But we were able to we fished 2 events this weekend. We cash checked on one of them, and we came like the last guys who didn't get paid, or the first guys paid in a large event. A lot of those guys that come to those events are super good anglers, and it just is what it is. We had a great time. We saw them with our eyes at Table Rock. We went down there Friday afternoon, and we actually drove through a little half tornado to get there. It was terrible storm getting there, but when we got there, we were on the clear side of it. And as soon as we pulled up, we were fishing. I was actually throwing an Alabama rig, and I just happened to catch something out of the corner of my eye that looked real yellow up on the bank. And I trolled up there, and there was a giant bed and giant fish on it. And of course, the cold front came through that night and ruined all that. But man, we saw some cool stuff. So the Southern Lakes, it's actually starting. It's not happening. I don't believe just yet at Lake of the Ozarks or Truman, but the spawn is coming. This next full moon will have interesting implications on the fishing for sure. So I'm excited. We're going back to Table Rock this weekend for the BFLs. I'll be excluding myself from the Big Bass Bash. So, but I love to talk about it. It's just not something that I'm going to fish. They got silly rules on how much money you make from the fishing industry, and I have made some money from the fishing industry. So I'm actually I'm probably disqualified from fishing in the Big Bass Bash, but it's really meant for amateurs, and it's a great thing. I really like it because it really talks to the guys who aren't tournament anglers to give them let's give it a try. Just
right.
It's one fish deal, one fish, $100,000. I mean, if that doesn't excite you, I'm not sure what will.
That's exactly right. And on top of that, yeah, one fish will get you $100,000, but they're, I believe, paying out 48 spots every 2 hours. So you catch a 5.5 pounder, a 6 pounder, go weigh that sucker in. You might walk away with
you try to weigh one in every period. If in theory, if that was the case, and you could return to the fishing areas and catch another one, or I don't know, I'd have to know the rules, but are you allowed to keep more than one in your live well?
I don't know the answer to that. I think it might be 2, but I don't want to speak out of turn on that either. So I'm not sure.
If you catch 2 good ones, and then oh my gosh, I mean, my mind just races with so many variables of how that whole thing could go off that it still comes down to you got to catch a big one, but they do pay quite a few places. And I think even if you have an exact fish, I can remember years ago I did fish in one of the very first ones, and I got an straight up exact 4 pounder, and I got an extra several $1,000s if I remember right. Out of that, it being exactly 4.00.
They do that, and they do it for a 3 pounder as well.
Right. And the 4 pounder paid better. I remember that. But love the whole thing. It's good for our industry. It's good for our sport. And when a kid wins it, like a few years ago, it's a Cinderella story. And who doesn't love that? I mean, come on. That's the beauty of the fishing, is that you don't have to be a super attractive guy or a real big guy. Like, I am not a real big physical guy. You don't have to be the bass fish.
Right.
So,
well, and since you and I chatted last, it's been about a little over a week. Lake conditions were a little bit different at that time, and we were kind of making some predictions hypothetically based on the conditions staying the same. The lake's come down about 5 or 6 feet, I believe, since we chatted last. Water temperature anywhere, depends on where you're at. In the upper ends, they're starting to see that 57 to 58. On the lower end, it's still seeing a lot of that 55 to 56. We've got a week of, like you said, we had a cold front come through. We got nights for the next 3 days that I believe are going to be in the upper 30s and low 40s. So that water temperature, I think we're going to have some nice days, but there's just some different factors that are coming into play. So I just wanted to touch base with you here tonight, just for a little quick update, see kind of what your pointers are for folks out there that are going to be fishing this big bass bash, see what updated stuff you might have to add now that we're considering some different conditions that are now upon us.
Right. Well, and there was an event this weekend down there. Just kind of a small team event at Truman, and it took all what, 18 or 19 pounds to win it. So and they did bring in some fish. So I think it has turned on. I'm hearing lots of chatter on both lakes about spinner baits and chatter baits. For the people, I'm going to tell you, I didn't come to terms with a chatterbait till about 4 or 5 years ago. And I've been fishing for a long time, looking at them and wondering when they really do work. And one of the most epic time to throw a chatterbait is when things are flooded. It's really a bait that was created, what I understand, in grass lakes. I mean, it's like a crankbait that you can, with only one hook, that you can snap out of that cover. And so chatterbait is definitely something I would definitely consider throwing if I was there. I'd also, right off the bat, you tell me that it's a cold front and I just know how they're going to swat at the bait and not really put it in their mouth. So immediately my mind is racing towards a square bill. Finding that rock on a secondary point that's facing the sun, so the sun is directly beating down on that rock, and I might even pull my boat in to say the closest I can and try to parallel those rocks and that cover with that square bill. So when that fish does swat at that bait, because a lot of times you've irritated them and they charge and they may not actually put it in their mouth completely, especially in a cold front, nipping at the blades, bumping your spinnerbait, making you crazy. That'll only happen a couple times to me. And I put that bait down and I pick up my square bill. And I know from lots of experience that when that square bill's right here, they still go in that live well just as good as when that square bill's right here.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times when that square bill's coming along and all those treble hooks are out, he just comes up and just kisses it. Well, he's hooked up. So his cold front days are always a crankbait thought for reaction bite for me. Because when they start swatting at things because of cold fronts or because of, pressure changes, all those things that are going to happen this weekend are going to have rain, I think. Get on the backside of that front and they're not as excited about biting, and they'd swat at that bait and you still get them in the net. So
Mm-hmm.
I'd be considering something with a treble hook on it just for that reason. So
Yeah.
but the treble hook also offers a little more work to keep it free of the cover. So there's a trade-off there. But that's what I would do. And obviously waterfalling, I'd also have something Texas rigged, with maybe a 3/8 ounce bullet weight, pinned down to like a beaver or something fairly small that you could make fairly accurate pitches, because there's a fair amount of current in the lake. So they're going to set up behind. What you should find is if you do catch one, you should be able to kind of see where he was sitting in relationship to the tree or whatever you were throwing at, and go be able to reduplicate it. That's the beautiful thing of Truman Lake, is just you find that reoccurring cover. Like the Ozarks, you do too. It's docks or whatever it is that reoccurs. It does happen at that lake because it's got more shoreline than Lake Michigan. It actually will soak up a lot of boats because of all that. But Truman, you're more natural kind of repeating things, points with cedar trees or a combination of cedars and hardwoods and laydowns, more of a natural setting. And some guys just prefer to fish that. So I know that's going to appeal to some guys, that they can go enter this tournament and go fish for one big giant bite, and you don't have to be around all those docks and big boat traffic. So it's a neat deal. It's neat that they allow it to be at both lakes. I don't know if this is the year that Truman's going to shine, but you can never rule out that freak show bass showing up. Now, they had one last weekend show up, so it's as big as of one at Lake of the Ozarks that I can remember in several years. So chances of somebody catching one that big again are nil. Yeah. But there were 7-pounders. So my prediction now is for either one of the lakes is going to be a 7-pound fish in the 7-pound class, low 7-pound class. But it's a great deal. You just go fishing and you fish your favorite way to catch a big fish. And when you stumble on one, like that 16 or 17-year-old kid that did a few years ago, and oh my God, that Cinderella story. That's the whole thing about the Big Bass Bash. That's the beauty of it. I mean, it gives $100 grand to an amateur for catching one bass.
Will a spinnerbait, you mentioned the chatterbait, is the spinnerbait going to come into play on Truman, you think?
Really, I really think anytime you have that much cover in the water, you want something that's gonna, chatterbait, square bill, spinnerbait, maybe a spinnerbait with a round blade, maybe a set of 2 big Colorados, a real big thumper, just to draw them out of the cover. That's my thoughts on it. No matter where you fish, with the water being up high, there's going to be some additional cover that when the water's at normal or lower than normal pool, they don't get to sit on. They just sit on those trees. But now it puts all that growth in there. So the chatterbait is definitely a player. The spinnerbait, things that you can throw through there and not bring back a bunch of debris that you have to continue clearing off your bait. So the square bill may offer problems, but I'm telling you, I've got videos of Truman just a year or two ago when the water was high, and it was this time of year, and we catch giants on that square bill. So I think it could play. I think it could. I don't know, but a 7-pounder, you anything over 4 1/2 pounds, you should weigh. 4-pounder above, you should probably weigh and just spin the wheel and see where it falls out. Because when guys do well that don't win the big money, they might only get. But if you get 3 checks in that weekend, I mean, you've really done something. So
yeah,
that's it. About catching fish. And with it's also going to be about really realizing how many guys are going to be on the water, and realizing you all are kind of in this thing together. So being nasty to each other on the water ain't going to help nothing. Right. You're going to see somebody right around on the other side of the dock. So just put your blinders on, go to this tournament knowing your filter has to be turned on real heavily on pressure, because there's going to be so many anglers in this deal. And we always just have fun talking to the guys that you come along to. We want to hear their stories. I do remember that from the one time I did fish it. That was and there was quite a bit of camaraderie too.
Now, the last time we chatted about the Big Bass Bash, you talked about how your preference, you like a little cleaner water that lends itself more to staying within 5, 6, 7 miles of the dam. What, as far as where folks should be focusing their efforts on Truman Lake, as far as arms of lake, if you have any pointers there, or just general structure, points, what kind of advice do you have on that front?
I'm going to tell you to enter the pockets. I really think the moon phase and the length of the day has already put them back there. Temperature is a lot is not as relevant for their movement towards the spawning area. So I'm going to tell you to fish on back in the creeks on secondaries. That would be my preference. Now, obviously, in this situation, a lot of times you don't get to fish exactly where you want to because it's so crowded. But now on Truman, I think it's not going to be as crowded on Truman, and you'll be able to pick where you want. But I would start now. When I drove over the Grand Arm, I'm going to say it was before this last storm, but it had enough clarity. We both, me and my buddy, were like, "Ooh, look at the Grand." When we came over the Osage Arm, it was blown out. So if you were going to go up the Osage Arm, you might have to go as far as to where the Palmy starts to enter up by the 83 bridge. Up there, you might have a real distinct color change up there once you get past the Osage influence, because that Osage delivers a lot of dirty water, but it's being pulled towards the dam, so it doesn't go up that Pomme de Terre arm. That cleaner water coming out of Pomme de Terre Lake is coming down that. So that be clear. That might be offer some clarity. In the other creeks, maybe the Little Palmy might be, or the Little Tebow. They might have cleared up. I don't know, but for sure the Tebow arm has cleaned up, and the lower Grand would be a thought, and the middle and upper Pomme de Terre arms might as well be clear. But I don't know. I'm once it gets 56, 55, 56, 57, I might just put on a bright red crankbait, square bill, and try some of the dirty water. Really shallow, straight up on those rocks, as best as I can do to make good presentations. Maybe not throwing directly into the bank, trying to more parallel the bank, keeping my bait in at 2 to no deeper than 4 foot, but shallow.
Right.
Currents make those fish want to be up shallow. It may put them with their bellies on the bottom. That is a potential thought, but if they're in the feeding mood, they'll leave the bottom to grab whatever they're going to eat. So I'm back in the pockets. I'm on a secondary. I'm pulling my boat in a little closer to the bank, and I'm throwing more down the bank line than I am towards the bank line, if that makes sense to you. I know a lot, so that's my thoughts, is then I'm showing more fish, my bait, per cast than throwing into the bank.
Right.
Now, if set up where they were off the bank a little bit in brush piles or something like that, then that's a different setup. But the springtime thing, they're driven to come to the bank, for reproduction. And there were so many fish already set up at Table Rock, and the water was below where the temperature should be for spawning, that I got to believe moon phase and length of the day has a lot to do with it, more than we probably know. So they may be shallower and more advanced than I'm thinking. I might be able to pull into the spawning areas and actually catch females in there. I don't know. I haven't been on Truman, but we did that at Table Rock. We were able to catch the females in the spawning areas already. The water was 58 degrees. So, and we visually saw beds, and that's not something you're going to be able to do at Lake of the Ozarks or Truman. The water's just too dirty. But you kind of know where they want to go. They're going to be almost there.
Well, it's going to be real interesting to see how it plays out. I know a lot of folks are thinking Lake of the Ozarks is probably going to be the lake, but like you said, Truman is the underdog, and everyone loves to cheer for an underdog. And
it's one bass. It's only one fish. That's the deal. The slow, steady guy in this race wins. It's just, it is the spin of the wheel. But what a neat deal. It's such a Cinderella story. So I love hearing the stories that come out of the event. I'm not gonna lie, I kind of wish I could fish it, but man, I don't think they'd want me to do well in it or anything. And they have rules. They have rules that keep guys. They want the guides. They don't want guys who pay big entrance fees in tournaments, which I have done, and they got a magic number. If you win or if you earn so much money in the fishing industry, they're going to classify you as a professional, which I get. I understand. I think that makes sense.
Mhm.
But they want to keep it for the people that aren't that person or like that person, and keep that event strictly for them. And I respect that, because I fish against guys that, I mean, they're there to take your money. It's they're sticks, so they don't need to be in this event.
Yeah. Well, it's gonna be really fun, and we're gonna have some coverage of the event as well, of course. And just really looking forward to it. Hopefully, everyone stays safe out there, uses good common sense. There was a boat crash near Bucksaw here late last week, and luckily, no one was seriously injured. But especially on the Ozarks, I think that becomes a concern. But
Getting bit,
yeah,
definitely getting down the Lake of the Ozarks. So you just gotta. It'll be busy enough there. You just, a lot of times the only time you're standing up is when you're outside of the pocket moving to another one, and there'll be plenty of water patrol to watch out for you. So mind your P's and Q's
yeah, yeah.
on that.
That's right. That's right. Well, David, thanks a bunch, man. Appreciate it. Good luck down at Table Rock.
Double BFL. There's two BFLs because they had to cancel one because our lake was frozen, and so they've rescheduled it. And I've never, in all the years I've fished these events, I can't ever remember having a Saturday, Sunday, two separate events, one on each day. Matter of fact, I can't ever remember having one of these events on a Sunday, unless maybe way back when it was a Red Man event. But I've got a couple videos coming. We made some, we captured some pretty interesting content. So be looking out for that. And hopefully I can do well at the Table Rock events and capture more content. So
Absolutely. Yeah. So for all of you guys who are watching, David McCormick, it's the Fish30 YouTube channel. You can find him there. We share all of his videos on TrumanLakeFishingIntel.com as well. So be sure you can support him by going and checking out his videos, leaving him a like and subscribing. So he
yeah.
he appreciates that. We appreciate him, and we appreciate you guys for being members of the website. So thanks a bunch. That's what keeps this world going around and keeps us able to keep putting content out as your guys' support. So thank you so much. We'll look forward to catching you guys on the next one. Thanks a bunch.